Hi, Brandon Monroe here, and you're listening to the Bernie Breakdown. I gotta say, that was one very interesting weekend of racing. We had some head-scratching moments, some controversy, and arguably some of the best bumper-to-bumper, door-to-door action you'll see any given weekend. I'm Brandon Monroe. Alongside me, as always, is Mark Chavez. Let's start off, which personally I think was probably one of the best races of the year, the Truck Series at Mid-Ohio. Zane Smith, Parker Kligerman, what a show. I mean, if you look at the box score at the end of the day, it'll show Parker Kligerman leading 56 laps out of the 67 run, but this was something that, I mean, the Truck Series, I don't think I've seen before. These two guys going at it, door to door, bumper to bumper, banging off each other, and at the end of the day, when push came to shove, no one stepped over the line. You got a really good finish, and Parker Kligerman with, I guess you could say it's an upset special given the team that he's driving for, but just what a drive by him and that 75 team to get that out there and pick up his first win of the season. Just a real good story all around for him.
I mean, Parker Kligerman's been a fan favorite for a while, so it's certainly good to see him get a win. Certainly he has run well enough to get one. Hopefully this can roll over into a full-time ride next year. I know the team already mentioned they're looking for sponsorship. And it does seem different than when they've said it at other points. And just, I mean, Kligerman's run well enough that even without, if they were full-time, even without this win, he'd be in the playoffs. So I think the two guys, to me, the two guys right now, there are a couple other guys like Trevor Bayne, I think it might be in the discussion, but the two guys right now that were not full-time in anything this year that should absolutely be full-time in something are Kligerman and Ryan Priest. Kligerman's always been a weird one. He's always been the fan favorite outside of the KBM ride, which was so great that Kyle refused to even drive it. He's always done pretty well, I feel. And he's a marketable guy. He's on TV a lot, has a lot of fans, and I mean, just a product of not being able to find the money. And it is weird because we've had other guys who don't have connections to money. Like a Landon Castle, for example, although that money may not be there anymore, find money and be able to take advantage of it. And Parker just hasn't been able to, and it's been unfortunate, but hopefully this turns into something for him.
Yeah, I definitely think it's gonna, I think it should be noted too, like that team, that was the last Triple Truck Challenge race. $50,000 for them is probably, a good chunk of change. So that's also something really good to come out of it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it feels weird when it's just the one. Like, I don't know, just feel like it should just be part of the purse almost. But I mean, obviously the money will help. I actually think I know Parker mentioned he gets paid by winnings, so a large chunk of that probably is actually going to go to him. Which, I mean, I think in this kind of situation, he certainly deserves it.
No, I mean, he had a dominant day, started second, again, led 56 laps. Really, the only one that was able to contend with him was Zane Smith. And I think we got to talk about Zane here after that type of performance. Just normally in those truck races, when you get to the end like that, somebody always seems to overstep the line and do something dumb and cause a wreck. And I think we both think Zane Smith's a pretty damn good driver, and he is going to have a spot somewhere in the sport for years to come. But you really saw him win over a lot of people, just, the fans I'm talking about in this case, just with how he raced Kligerman at the end. Really clean. They bumped and banged, and neither one of them stepped over the line. That was just really good, hard racing, and that's something specifically I feel like in the Truck Series sometimes that these guys just don't do. I mean, I get it. A lot of the time. I mean, a lot of the time.
This group of drivers, they are not this generation, and we see it in the Xfinity Series too. But it certainly seems to roll over into the Truck Series, especially with people that are just bringing a check and racing a car. They are not afraid to wreck equipment.
No,
for better or for worse. It's the generation these guys are, and you don't have, and it hasn't been this way for a while, but obviously in the 80s, and this started going away in the 90s, but guys were in the shop working on the cars themselves. And even in the 90s and the 2000s, I feel like guys spent a lot more time at the shop still. So, like, if you're out there tearing up equipment, your team's not going to like you.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I don't know. It's definitely different. And I think it's, I don't know if one led to another, but it certainly seems to be more of a disconnect between these drivers and them caring about their equipment itself, really.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely great to see Zane race him clean all the way through. It was a nice, hard race, and Parker came out on top. But I mean, Zane Smith is going to be rewarded for his efforts. He's effectively won the regular season championship. He needs to get 2 points, basically. So 1 stage point or not, or whatever that would be, 34th.
Mm-hmm.
Or John Hunter Nemechek or Chandler Smith have to not get absolute maximum points, win both stages, win the race. So by the time, I imagine there's a pretty good likelihood by the end of stage 1 that Zane Smith is, and honestly, even before, depending on if cars crash out, Zane Smith will be the official regular season champion.
So much for that potential points battle. A couple weeks ago, it looked like it was going to come down to the wire, and turns out not so much. Zane Smith able to put up some pretty good results, and his competition not so much.
They are obviously closer to the playoffs than everyone else, just because they have one race. No other series has a favorite, I think, and I'd argue pretty strongly that there, might be 2 guys, maybe in the Xfinity Series, 3 or 4 guys that are the favorites, but there's not one favorite. In the Truck Series, Zane Smith is the championship favorite. Anyone that, obviously, I would not be shocked if he doesn't win, especially in this format, but he is the championship favorite right now. I don't know what the odds say. I haven't looked at them, but if Zane Smith should be at least double what anyone else is, I guess half, depending how you want to look at it.
Right. I mean, honestly, this might sound crazy, but the person closest to him in terms of being the favorite, it might be someone who hasn't even won yet, and that's Carson Hocevar. He had another really good run on Saturday, came home 3rd, still banged up with that leg injury that he suffered at Gateway. I mean, I think John Hunter Nemechek, obviously, if they could figure it out, could give Zane a run for his money, but that team, it's not even just him. I mean, he had issues. Chandler Smith, while he did get a top 10 finish, had to come from the back of the pack. Corey Heim, who did sit on the pole, I believe, he had a transmission issue. So KBM right now, they're going through some problems, and that's not good with the playoffs just around the corner.
Yeah, I mean, I still think Hocevar's problem is just that he doesn't have stage or playoff points. He's not going to get all that many from the regular season champion or regular season standings. I think he is currently 8th right now and could maybe move up to 7th, but he wouldn't move up much more than that. That's his biggest thing right now. He absolutely has the speed to where if he had the playoff points, he could get through without a win. But because they don't have the playoff points, they can't have any mistake. If they can start actually winning races, though, I would 100% agree that Carson Hocevar, based on the speed they've shown, is probably the second guy. Just wanted to actually go look at the championship odds because I have not looked at them. Because normally I can't bet on them, so I don't.
Yeah, DraftKings actually doesn't have any for the Truck Series.
Oh, they don't have any for the Truck Series yet.
Showing no love. I got Xfinity odds, I got Cup odds, but when it comes to the actual championship odds for the trucks, they are not up there. So unfortunately, we don't have anything. But I would tend to agree with you. It's probably Zane Smith. It's something like plus 200, maybe 300, and then after that, you're probably going to have a drop off. 4, 5, 600 for the next guy, depending on what Zane is slotted at.
I imagine we might get championship odds after, I guess, next weekend after Pocono.
Mm-hmm. I know, but on top of just the great race, I mean, we had some guys and girls who needed some good finishes. Oh, girl, yeah, there was only one in this race. But, just looking at the back half of the top 10, Kaz Grala, 7th, I think you would expect that at a road course from him. Derek Kraus.
I don't disagree, but this was a little surprising to me, and there have not been a ton of them, but this is his first top 10 in any NASCAR series this year.
He hasn't really done a ton of races, I feel like, though. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like he was supposed to do more. He's done a couple cup races for the money team. He's done 5
He's
Xfinity
done
races.
six truck races.
It just doesn't seem like it. It's odd. Like, I don't know why, but I guess I don't know. I know he was going to be running for, Young Motorsports, but I thought he was going to have more races, but at least he got a good showing out of it this past week, coming home 7th. Derek Kraus, I'm sure we'll talk more about him when we get into the points. He needed a good run today, on Saturday, not quite good enough, but he does get a top 10, does close that gap on Matt Crafton with an 8th place finish. Colby Howard, top 10, 9th place, 2 top 10s for Bill McAnally this weekend, so that's really good. And Haley Deegan, I don't know how she did it, but she somehow came home 10th there at the end of the race.
Yeah, I remember because the ticker was terrible all race. And I remember as they're crossing the line, it's updating, and Haley Dean's name pops up into 10th there on the last lap. So I mean, she's tied last year top 10 mark. So not that was that hard to do. For Colby Howard, this is his first career top 10 as well. Career high finish for him. So looking at the cut line, Crafton is still the guy on the cut line. Didn't have a great day, but we'll talk about him in a second. Derek Kraus, you mentioned finish 8th, but didn't get any stage points. That hurt what could have been a great day, although he does still gain 10 points to the cut line, 19 back as they head into Pocono next week. And I'm sure we'll talk about it more next week, but I don't think Crafton has to necessarily crash, but it is certainly an uphill battle for Derek Kraus. I think Derek Kraus is going to miss anywhere from 0 to 10 points is my guess right now. To where just with they've been able to gain, I think they could gain 10 points, and then they will only miss because of the penalty they got. Was that last time out?
At Nashville.
Or that was Nashville, yeah.
Yeah, it was at Nashville.
Only other guy that could point his way in technically still is Tyler Ankrum. He finished 27th, but he did get 7 stage points, gained 4 points to the cut line. But at 46 back, you're going to have to, if Crafton has issues, you're going to also have to have Kraus have issues is the problem. It's not just one guy. Both guys are going to have issues in order for you to point your way in. And you have to have a good enough day that you get 46 points, which, is at least 6. Right? And really, it's more because if you win, you win. It doesn't matter. So in all reality, that's at least 11 stage points that Ankrum would have to get in order to point his way in. So there are obviously still other guys that can win to get in the top 20 right now. Matt DiBenedetto, Tanner Gray, Chase Purdy, Colby Howard, and Timmy Hill, all technically still alive in that they get a win, they get in. There are some other guys outside the top 20 that if they somehow got a win, they would need help, although they're close enough that just the win might be enough points to push them over into the top 20. But I don't expect any of them to win, but hey, crazier things have happened at Pocono.
That is true.
Inside the cut line, do you have anything on that?
I was just going to say to add to that, I think you were actually going to touch on it. I was probably jumping ahead there, but, Grant Enfinger, not quite safe, but still looking pretty good. He is a bit ahead of Crafton right now. Looks like about, 18 points. 18 points ahead of Crafton.
Yeah, I think
22 points. 22 points ahead of Crafton.
22. No, he is 26 points ahead of Crafton.
These points are no. You know what? If you're on Racing Reference, their points are off.
I am not on Racing Reference.
All right. Because on Racing Reference, it looks like it's only 20. Regardless, I don't know. But Enfinger probably safe, but he's just got to show up and make sure nothing disastrous happens.
Yeah, it's 47 points though. Like really, Enfinger's no one wins. He's going to be safe because 47 points is going to be very, very hard for Derek Kraus to make up. That would be 12 stage points if Kraus doesn't win. If Kraus wins, it doesn't matter. Then it's just what Crafton does. So Enfinger, as long as he doesn't crash, he's one of the guys that, like I said, we'll talk about next week. Pocono is like a road course, and that offers a strategy to go for stage points. If I'm Enfinger, I 100% go for those stage points, like without a doubt. But yeah, Crafton finished 18th, didn't get any stage points. Got in a wreck pretty late that cost him. He was running around in 10th, I think.
Yeah, that late restart. Yeah, and he got
so cost
back.
him a few points there. Wound up losing 10 points at the cut line. Like I said, 19 ahead is still relatively safe, especially because if Ankrum or if Kraus plays the stage point strategy, Crafton should easily be able to play the stage point strategy and finish within a couple points there. And then all Crafton has to do is run top 15 and he'll be fine. So, Enfinger finished 11th, but did collect 5 stage points. So he gains 8 points on the cut line. Like I said, moved up to 47 over Derek Kraus. So sitting in a pretty good spot. I expect him fully to be fine as long as they could just avoid a complete disaster. And like I said, even then, it'll probably take someone winning.
So, moving over to Atlanta, where the other 2 races took place this weekend, starting off with the Xfinity Series. Very interesting race. I think it really felt like it was 2 different races. That first half, when the sun was really, out and hitting the track hard, it really broke up the pack. I know both of us were watching it and we were thinking, like, really dumb idea for NASCAR to prevent these teams from practicing, because at least the first half of the race was not anything like we saw back in the spring when these guys ran here.
There were a lot of guys that were wrecking loose. It gave kind of like a early mid 90s plate vibe, where you kind of, especially on Daytona, where you kind of had smaller packs. As the day got later, I don't know, it probably was some combination of teams getting a handling of their car along with cooling down a little bit, but it did settle back, not quite into what we had for the Xfinity Series cars in the spring, but still more closer to pack racing. Although I don't know if the Chevys were just that much faster than everybody. If you were the tail car on that lead pack at the end and you weren't a Chevy, they lost like 3 or 4 cars in off of that tail pack in that last like 40 lap run or what have you, whatever it was. Really felt like these guys though don't know what they're doing.
They don't. They really did not.
Austin Hill is definitely a good plate racer. Has won now 2 of the plate style races this year. Although I guess the Xfinity Series, because they do run the regular package, you could almost argue it's not. Or then at least don't run the full Super Speedway package. You could at least almost argue it's not quite a plate race, but it's still, everyone kind of expects it to be one. And Hill was in contention to win. I finished, I think, second in Atlanta.
Second in Atlanta in the spring, and arguably could have won Talladega.
Could have won Talladega. Definitely had the best car at Talladega. So knows what he's doing. RCR struggling in a lot of places, but they aren't struggling to give Austin Hill strong plate cars. But the effort and everyone behind him was, other than Ryan Truex, so I feel like was just hanging on for dear life. Clearly, throughout the entire run, basically looked slower than all the other Chevys. All the Chevys, he was a Toyota, so slower than all the Chevys in the pack. Hemrick could pull right up to him like it was nothing, and it felt to me like if Hemrick had ever taken that run and just gone to the inside, Reddick would have just gone with him, and everyone else would have just gone with them, and they would have just left Ryan Truex out to dry.
No, I felt the same way on that. I think the only thing with Hemrick,
because Reddick, and I don't remember who else it was, but they did try to go at one point, and Hemrick just stood there, and then like it didn't work, obviously, because as long as someone keeps pushing Ryan Truex, it's not going to work. And
the only thing with Hemrick, for why I didn't think he was going to go, is because he did have that damage on his right front from an earlier incident. And I don't know in his head if maybe he thought, if I pull out, we're just not going to go anywhere. But you got to make a move. Truex was just holding everybody up. You have to do something.
And then I love Josh Berry, but he didn't, to me, do enough to try to win.
That looked like somebody who lacked the experience in that situation.
Absolutely. Like he tried to make a move. I'm not going to fault him for that. He at least tried to make a move, and I will never fault the second place guy for being okay running in second until the last lap. I still think it's more often, especially here in Daytona, going to be a losing move than a winning move, just because a caution can come out. And I mean, it's if you just sit there and it's a one guy, then all the leader has to do is block one guy. But I at least get it because you're sitting there. You know, if a run happens, you're going to be the guy that benefits from it. But he just never seemed to lay back enough. Like he would fall back to where Ryan Truex was and didn't really push the envelope to get a bigger gap to Austin Hill. Like he would just fall back to Ryan Truex. And Ryan Truex, I think if he pulls out to try to pass you, I think Hemrick just pushes Josh Berry. And the other scenario is that then Ryan Truex slows down, Hemrick goes to the inside, then Josh Berry just drops down and takes the push from Hemrick. It just felt like he was willing to fall back to where Ryan Truex was, but it wasn't enough of a gap for him to ever get a run on Austin Hill.
Yeah, I feel like too. I mean, obviously, I'm not listening to the in-car audio at this point in the race, but I almost feel like they maybe didn't relay the whole situation to Josh because, like, I'm with you. He never dropped back enough. I feel like to kind of get that run with Austin Hill.
He would just drop back to wherever exactly Ryan Truex was, and then go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a couple car lengths to Austin Hill at that point. Like it's just not enough to get a run, especially with, quite frankly, a car behind him that I don't think was capable of pushing him to the lead.
No, I think it's funny. I think if you swap some of these drivers out, if you had a Chevy behind Josh Berry, I think it plays out differently. Austin Hill still might win because it does seem like out of everybody in this group, he's probably the best, restrictor plate style racer out there.
I mean, hey,
at least in this series.
Richard Childress compared him to Dale Earnhardt. So
I don't know about that, but he's good. He's good. I will give him that. Austin Hill, obviously, a couple plate wins in the Xfinity Series, has a win in the Truck Series at Daytona as well, so he knows how to get it done on these types of races.
I think he's in a pretty solid spot to make the round of 8 for sure. Mm-hmm. It'll have a plate race in that round of 12 with Talladega, and from there it'll be a little bit tough. Although Martinsville, a track that JRM did struggle at in the spring, so might open the door there a little bit. But I mean, I think he's a solid. I think barring anyone else, even if he doesn't win Dega, as long as one of those other guys that are like your Hemricks or Herbst, Mayer, although even Mayer probably can point his win just because of how consistent they are. Sieg, if none of them win, I think Austin Hill can point his way into the final 8 either way. Just it's a good. He'll get points at Talladega.
I think he's setting himself up. He's going to need help. I'm not going to say he's going to race his way into the Final 4, but if you go out there and you win Daytona and then you win Talladega, that's 10 more playoff points you carry into the round of 8. If any of these guys that we view as favorites have problems, he could maybe slip in there, but he's going to need some help.
Yeah, because the problem on raw speed, I would say he is with driver and equipment the 7th guy in the series, probably. I think all 4 JRM cars have more speed than him. Not necessarily better racers, but just the cars themselves have more speed. Allmendinger is a better racer. I honestly don't know if that car actually has more speed.
Yeah, I don't know either.
I cannot. I think with the speed they have, Allmendinger has no shot at actually winning the championship, but it has been one of the more impressive performances I've seen from someone. Because that car clearly lacks the speed and they still are hanging on to the points lead. And obviously he's benefited from a couple plate wins road course wins. And I mean, really, even Road America wasn't even that strong of a performance from him. He didn't get very many stage points, if any. But strong, a win, a very strong race at Coda, win at Portland. And they have 3 more road courses, 2 more in the regular season.
Yeah. Watkins, Glen, Indy road course, and then the Roval in the playoffs.
So, yeah. I mean, he'll still set himself up nicely, and he's still AJ Allmendinger. But I still think he's ahead of Austin Hill, and then obviously Ty Gibbs. After that is when it's a lot closer. You have Riley Herbst, who has been better. You have Brandon Jones, who's okay. He kind of in his entire career, I feel like, has gone up and down. Like he'll have streaks where he does really well, and then they'll get cooled off for a while. But could certainly, obviously, go out and win a race. But I think Austin Hill is that seventh guy, that first guy behind that group. Honestly, could probably go toe to toe with Mayer just because Mayer still kind of. He mentioned it in his interview after he crashed. Kind of slipping back in the Mayer of last year over the last month or so, where they have the speed, but they're just not finishing the races.
Yeah,
and I expect him to get it under control, but it has been a bad month for him.
Yeah, not a good moment at Atlanta where he just kind of cleared himself on Jeffrey Earnhardt.
Cleared himself over Jeffrey Earnhardt and just wrecked himself. And or I mean, it kind of looks like Jeffrey Earnhardt maybe came back down, but it didn't matter at that point. That's fair game. So
if you're gonna get crowd somebody into the wall, you got to expect something like that to happen in return. So
right now, though, obviously, I think most of us expect the gap to widen a bit with some of the upcoming races in next month. But Allmendinger, Gibbs, and Justin Allgaier are all within 30 points of each other. Gragson, I think, would be just over 30 if he didn't have a penalty. I think he'd be about 33. But those three, I think, is where your regular season champion comes from. I don't think Gregson's shown enough speed to close the now 60-some point gap over the next few races. I think he'll obviously close it some, but over three guys, I don't think he'll be able to erase it over all three of them. So I think your regular season champion comes from those three. And we'll see once we get back to ovals. That's kind of been what, especially just regular ovals, like still, it feels like the JRM dominance was a while ago. But I mean, the one oval we've gone to in the last month and a half, they won the one regular oval, not plate style. They go to Nashville and Justin Allgaier just dominates the race and wins. So I think the last oval before that was Charlotte.
Sounds right.
They dominated that race too. So it's easy, I feel like, to feel like, oh, the field's caught them. And they even talked about it in the broadcast. But these style of races, these tracks, I don't think we can take anything from them in terms of, because that wasn't what they were strong at before. And when we go to they go back to Richmond, I think they do.
No,
they don't.
Okay. No, it's the trucks.
It's the trucks. Okay.
Yeah.
They obviously, Bristol, they could maybe struggle a little bit, but I think the ovals will continue to see them run very well and continue to win.
Pretty good with them at Bristol just because it's concrete. I mean, they're pretty dominant at Nashville and Dover. I know Bristol's a different animal.
We could see, it's weird because the two races they struggled at this year, ovals, were Richmond and Martinsville. But Gragson had the best car at Phoenix, and Allgaier had a top 5 car too. So this weekend in Loudon, I mean, William Byron, we'll talk about it later in our next episode. William Byron will probably just win the race.
He's 3 for 3 at races I'm at if he does.
It's true, but it'll. I wouldn't be surprised really if Jerem wasn't as strong here, just because this is, while they were good at Phoenix, this is also kind of in the same vein as a Martinsville, Richmond, and that they're flat tracks, and they definitely struggled there. But if they go out, what's the next oval? Michigan.
I mean, they go to Pocono, but that's on oval.
I mean, but Pocono still, if they struggle to Pocono, then I think you could really lead something into the idea that maybe the people have caught them if they don't go out and do as well at Pocono as we've seen them do. So, Josh Berry mentioned in second place. He's now tied for the second most top 5s in the series, and it's quite an interesting list. You want to take any? There's 4 guys on this list. Or sorry, 3 guys. Barry's one of them. You want to take any guesses to the other 2? I think I'll double check, but I think Gregson's not one of them. But I think Gregson has the most top 5s.
Yeah, I mean,
Gregson has 9. There are 3 guys with 8.
Either Ty Gibbs or Allgaier, just off the top of my head.
So Gregson has 9. Both of those guys have 7. There are 3 guys with 8 top 5s.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you. Maybe Allmendinger just because of the
Allmendinger also has 7.
Yeah, so I mean, there's only so many people in the Xfinity
It's an
series.
interesting list. It's Josh Berry, Austin Hill, and Sam Mayer.
I don't know which one I'm more surprised with. Probably Austin Hill, because we don't feel like RCR is running good enough to where he should be up there. Sam Mayer makes a little bit of sense, because I feel like he does show top 5 speed, either finishes there or he wrecks. So I can kind of wrap my head around that one.
I mean, the thing is, Austin Hill takes advantage of his opportunities. One Daytona, obviously. Second at the Atlanta race in the spring. Second at Coda. Fourth at Martinsville. Fifth at Texas. Third at Portland. Fourth at Road America. And one at Atlanta. So only one banked oval that isn't Atlanta or this is a plate style race that he has a top 5 at, and that's Texas. But the other races where a team like Jerem certainly isn't as strong on the road courses, Martinsville, he takes advantage of. So that there is a mix of tracks in the playoffs. I think it'd be very hard for him to make the final 4. But I would feel pretty safe that he makes the round of 8.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe bet he'll make the round of 8. And like I said, even though I think he could be a dark horse for that final 4, but he's going to need help. And, you're really at that point, you're banking on the fact, assuming he gets a couple more wins, because we do go to Daytona and Talladega. If he wins those races, like I said before, and you get 10 extra playoff points going into the round of 8, yeah, maybe you can make something happen if other people have problems. But since we're...
Yeah. I think the issue with Austin Hill, too, is I think he is the peak of where he could be in points. I don't see him. He's 63 points behind Gregson, and I don't see him catching Gregson. But Brandon Jones is 11 back. Sam Mayer, Riley Herbst are both further back at around 50 points, 50 and 60 points. But I mean, if Sam Mayer goes on another top 5 streak, he could close that gap. So that's Austin Hill has to just finish 6, get as many playoff points as you can, because they're going to be critical if he wants to make that last round. Because right now at least, I don't think those cars have the speed for him to win at any of our final round of 8 tracks.
Right. Let's unless do you have, before we look at the points, do you have anybody you want to highlight in terms of where they finished?
He was kind of a roadblock, but Ryan Truex did finish 3rd. It's his best Xfinity finish since the first Phoenix race in 2019. Certainly hasn't been as impressive as Trevor Bayne has been in the car, but I mean, been solid. Daniel Hemrick brought it home 5th, which that's just his second top 5 of the season.
Not a good title defense.
I mean, yeah, we can go to the points. Really, all I have is that Landon Castle is still the cut driver, but now his lead is up to 80 points over Anthony Alfredo. It was, I want to say, in the 70s, maybe the 60s before. So that gap's just wide. And Sheldon Creed has moved in to be that second guy, but he only gained like a couple points. He's 95 back.
Yeah, I think Sheldon Creed's probably like looking at Austin Hill right now and just shaking his head over how his season's gone. When you have Austin, who's, like you just said, he's tied for second apparently with top 5s in the series, so that's good. And then you look at yourself all the way down here in points, can't catch a break. He straight up beat you at the end of stage 2. He outraced you there. I really don't know at this point what to make of Sheldon Creed, so it's just he did spin out. He was able to use strategy to get himself back up there and ultimately came home in 12th, but this is just not close to probably how he envisioned his season going.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So I think he's probably got one more chance to make the playoffs, and it's probably going to be pretty hard to beat his teammate. So when we get to Daytona, that's going to be his Hail Mary shot, and we'll see what he could do when he gets there. That's probably the last thing that I could see happening that could possibly shake up this playoff race in the Xfinity series. It's pretty dead as of right now.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, luckily, it would shake it up because Daytona is not their cutoff race. So it would at least add some intrigue there. It's not like someone would win and that's it. They're in I mean, they would obviously be in, but it's not like in the Cup Series where, oh, that's the end of the playoffs or the regular season. So at least then it would still be a fight. But I think at this point it's going to take a complete blow up from Ryan Sieg or Landon Castle, which there are some uncertainties with Landon Castle's sponsorship. I think Colleague would just fund the car at least until it's eliminated from championship contention. But Voyager did. I guess I'm not involved. I'm not super involved in or into the crypto scene, but did I guess file for bankruptcy, which is certainly not good for Landon Castle.
Definitely not his future, that's for sure.
But with how much money Colleague has, I imagine they would, like I said, at least fund the car through it being eliminated in the playoffs. If they had a first run exit and then shut down the car, assuming the Voyager money's gone, I would not be surprised. There's also, which I would not be surprised either with where crypto was, a chance that they paid for this entire sponsorship up front.
That's what I heard. I did hear that rumor floating around. So if that is the case, Landon could potentially be good for the rest of this year. But his future in terms of being in a quality ride, not looking too hot, especially with how he's run this year. And that's unfortunate. I mean, he hasn't been impressive. I think we would have expected a lot more out of him, but I think it's safe to say he picked a bad time to go to Colleague because those cars aren't what they were.
Not getting outpointed by Hemrick all that much either. So I certainly think it's less than what people expected from Landon Castle, but those cars are also less than what most of us expected them would be. They would be. So
yeah, just unfortunate situation there for Landon, and hopefully they could figure something out. Whether he's at Colleague or not next year, that's definitely going to be up in the air, but hope to see him around in the series next year, somewhere in the sport driving, because Landon is he's a decent driver, and, not everyone could go out there and win races. You got to have people kind of running there in the middle, and it's always good to have somebody like that out on the track. So now going over to the Cup Series on Sunday, and this is probably the race that had the most controversy, the most action, and if you had any friends left, Ross Chastain probably doesn't anymore because he put on I don't even know how to describe it at this point. You're just leaving your head scratching your head. Like, how many more people can he piss off at this point?
There was always... He certainly had a reputation even before he was in the Cup Series. But I think a lot of us chalked it up to, he is literally racing for his career. Like, straight up racing for his career. He's got to do good if he wants any kind of future, really. And then he got it, and now he just continues to tear up equipment that shouldn't be tore up. And I 100% get, like, Mark was talking, I don't want him to change, and that's fine. I don't think most of us want him to, like, fundamentally change as a person, but you can't be tearing up this much equipment. You just can't. And I don't know if you heard his explanation for the wreck with Denny.
He was blaming, saying, "Oh, it's not the same."
Yeah, he started talking about damage. Like, well, the car had already been damaged for a hot minute.
You're still running up front.
It was not new.
Still finished second.
Still damn near won the race. So I just don't buy that for a second. I think it's all BS.
I think if there was a chance Denny was going to let it slide and not get him back at any point during the season, that's probably gone, because, like, this one, in my opinion, this might be worse than the Gateway one, because at least at Gateway, he stuck behind Denny for a while. It's hard to pass. You could tell he kind of overcooked it in there. That was more of an accident. This, well, it's still an accident. You're not going out there and intentionally spinning somebody at 180 miles an hour at a plate track. He just went right up the track into him. And
it was one of the dumbest things I've seen.
And that wasn't even, the only wreck he caused. There's the one with Martin Truex Jr. earlier in the race, which I I can't get a good angle on it. Did he run into him first? Did Truex get loose first? I don't know, but when you've had as many issues as Ross Chastain has over the last 2-3 months, you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt there.
No.
You're just not.
Absolutely not. And he doesn't deserve. I like Ross. I root for Ross. He has what's coming to him. Like 100 million% has what's coming to him.
Yeah. I mean, if it happens at New Hampshire, that'll be cool. I'll get a nice seat for it, but you have to expect if Denny's going to get him back, he's going to get him where it's going to hurt him the most, and that's sometime in the playoffs comes fall.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I am not of the opinion that you really get to just like bank these. I don't think that's fair game, honestly. But I mean, it's clearly what Denny's going to do. And at this point, I think Ross probably deserves it. And also based on Denny's past history, congratulations, 2022 Sprint Cups, or I guess I'm not Sprint Cup, I'm Sprint Cup in a long time. NASCAR Cup Series champion Ross Chastain.
At some point, or Daytona 500.
Or Daytona 500.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's relative to your talent. Austin Dillon, not talentless like people think, but it's clearly never a championship caliber driver. Ross Chastain clearly is, so he's going to win the championship now.
You just gave him the Bernie curse, man. Austin Dillon's going to go win the championship now at some point.
Oh boy, I'd be so sad. But yeah, enough about Ross. Ross is dumb.
Yeah, let's talk about the winner of the race because he pissed off a lot of people too, not the drivers.
We'll start on the good note. Dominated the race.
He did dominate the race.
Won both stages, led the most laps. Now has courtesy of, I mean, not that Blaney or Ross ran all that bad, but just because of how dominant Chase was, now has a 47-point lead over Ryan Blaney. Pocono, not historically Hendricks, or not even Pocono. I meant Loudon.
Sure. Getting a little ahead of ourselves.
Hendrick's best track, especially lately. They've kind of struggled a bit on the flat tracks, especially this year. But I mean, Chase was the only one that really had any of the Hendrick cars that had any speed at Phoenix. I don't actually remember what happened to Larson that race. Other guys just, I'm sure, had their whatever issues. But so I wouldn't be surprised if they are not all that great here. But still, I do think Chase is now. There were, maybe he wasn't like one of the favorites. He clearly should have been. I think right now, if you ignore the fact that Ross is almost certainly going to get dumped, and I think there are several drivers that they're going to do everything in their power to make sure he doesn't make the round of or the final four. If you ignore all that, I think at this point Ross and Chase are the two championship favorites, and no one else is really all that close.
Yeah, Blaney, I'd say is close, but he's got to win.
I think Blaney and Larson are almost the same. I honestly might even say Larson's closer than Blaney, to be honest.
Now. I was going to say, Kyle Larson had an interesting day. He got caught up in pretty much everybody else's trouble all day. So the fact...
Still got like a top 15 finish. That car was wrecking loose to begin with.
Not Larson's best day, but definitely not his fault.
The car is similar to the Xfinity Series. Very clearly looser than the spring. Never quite got... Like, it still felt like a plate race the entire time. They were never single file for all that long, but you could definitely make moves. The racing itself wasn't bad. It's still not and will continue to not be what I want to see here, because I would have preferred, especially with this car. And I think under the old car, I think I'm okay with it. Honestly, I hate it, kind of, but I understand it. Because, like I said, it's similar to Fontana. You have to repave it at some point. It's inevitable. But with this car, there was a good chance the repaved Atlanta still would have been a damn good race. With what we've seen at every other intermediate that isn't a bastard child that Texas is, every other intermediate has been a top tier race this year. I have no reason to think Atlanta would not have been had they just repaved it instead of completely remodeling it, whatever we call it, reprofiling it.
Reconfiguring, reprofile, remodel, doesn't matter. It's I'm coming around to it. I'm with you. It's not what I want.
I don't think I'll ever be happy with it, to be honest. And that's not just because you're right. 100% could have been worse. They could have done the Texas to it.
Yeah,
100% could have been worse.
touched on the schedule.
Obviously, let me take that back. There is a chance I come around to it, but it won't be for a few years, because if this is how this always races, I will never be satisfied with it, because it's never what I wanted. Obviously can't please everybody, and a lot of people like it, and I respect that. But this is never what I wanted from this track. But if it continues to wear out, where handling actually matters a lot, which it certainly mattered some, although, I mean, I think most of us expected it would matter some. Honestly, it mattered less in the Cup Series than I thought, just with how wrecking loose some guys were and still able to hang near the front.
They really stayed packed up. Like, if you go back and watch the Xfinity race, they were able to split up and break apart.
Even at the end, where it became more tame and less wild, it still was like, what was that, like a 9, 8, 7, yeah, something like that. So
yeah.
If it gets there eventually with the Cup Series, which it might require not running the plate package, which I think also a lot of us have said seems like a possibility if the track wears. But
I definitely think if it wears, they'll go away from it.
At the end of the day, we'll see. Just unfortunately for the track, I'll never love it if it continues to race like this, because it's not the kind of race. I think I was fine with 4 races where effectively anybody could win, literally. Like, talent, no talent, car, no car, didn't really matter. Mattered a little bit. You couldn't be in a complete crap box, but I was okay with 4. 6 is too many. There's a chance I like the race more if they just go down to 1 race, to be honest.
I think that possibly could happen, but I mean, you're hearing rumors of schedule shakeups, so maybe.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see much of one until we get the contract.
Mm-hmm.
I think there certainly will be changes. Obviously Chicago's street course is all but confirmed. I don't know what would necessarily take its place, but it certainly feels like there's a good chance at some point, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, which that's only 1 year before I think the new TV contracts anyway. Richmond loses a date. And the only track really I feel like anywhere on the radar, unless they go back to Chicagoland or Kentucky. But if the Chicago road course is a thing, I think Chicagoland is dead.
Oh yeah, no, I mean it's happening by all accounts. So I unfortunately don't think they're going back to Chicago, which stinks, because given this car, I think that'd be a really good race.
It was a good race to begin with. That's honestly one of the more confusing aspects of it. The Nashville Fairgrounds are the only thing on there, and that's one we'll see coming, I think. Mm-hmm. Just because of how the city council is involved in it, we'll know it's coming before it happens. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we'll see too much, but
yeah. But let's because I know we got a little sidetracked here. Let's just talk about the finish of the race, because there's a lot of controversy there. That's what I was saying. Like, Chase managed to rile up a lot of people, not the drivers. I think the drivers thought that was fair game, and there really wasn't anything wrong with it. The fans obviously have some other thoughts, but late restart, couple laps to go, Chase Elliott wills his way to the front, which that was a hell of a drive by Chase, to get Truex up out of the way, make the move on Corey LaJoie, who had probably, even though it's a plate race, his career best race, no doubt about it. I've never seen him run that good anywhere. So, was unfortunate what happened to Corey, but we go off into turn 1 and 2 on the last lap. Corey tries making a move, and I guess if you're just a Chase Elliott hater, or you're blind or dumb, I don't know, any of those 3, I guess, whatever, Chase ran him into the wall. Not what happened at all. You can clearly tell in the replays by NBC, Corey LaJoie got into the back of Chase and got himself up there. He's just trying to make a move. Obviously, Corey's not been in that situation before. I'd like to think somebody with a little bit more experience might have been able to have that play out differently. But just the whole thing that happened, what's your take on it?
Well, I'm clearly a Chase fan, so I'm gonna always be labeled as biased. I don't have any issue with Chase's move. Was it a little bit late? Maybe. And if it was like a 1/10 of a second late. It looked a lot worse on the live feed, watching it live, than it did once you saw the replay. And I mean, he clearly hit Chase in the bumper, the rear bumper. But at the end of the day, Corey LaJoie has been a guy who has called people out before. It's not like he always is towing this line of being super nice to everybody. And if he had come out and been mad at Chase, I wouldn't have blamed him. But instead, he comes out and had literally no issue with it. A lot of the media trying to get him to say something, and he refused to. Straight up basically acknowledging that if he wasn't in a situation where he had to win and there was no point in finishing second, he probably doesn't wreck. He's going for broke there, and as he should. But I mean, everyone gave Corey LaJoie every opportunity to complain about it, and he literally never did. In his post-race interview, didn't complain about it. Any of the interviews with the media, which sometimes, right, we see guys be pretty cordial on the post-race interview, and then they talk to the media afterwards, and they are 100% more angry than they were before.
Mm-hmm.
And Corey didn't do any of that. Several opportunities, people obviously asked him about a lot of it, and said it was fair game and is what anyone would do if they want to win, and had no issues with it. So
I think just the thing that shocked me the most is like Chase is the most popular driver in the sport. I'm not saying he's not, because with a lot of fans comes a lot of people that probably don't like you. Have you ever seen like a time on social media where you have something like that happen and just so many people go on there and rip the driver when it's not their fault at all? Because that's what I felt like going through like Twitter and Facebook and Reddit and all these places after the race.
It got to the point, and I felt this way for a while, but I think it confirmed 100%. For as much as Chase haters complain about Chase fans, they are every bit as toxic as Chase fans are. The Chase haters and like the actual fanatics, like the crazy guys, they are the same. They are two sides of the same coin. They are just as toxic. Chase made a racing move, like, and all people do is immediately pull up the Fontana incident, which really is not. The only way this is similar is that one driver touched another driver and the other driver ended up in the wall. That's it. If we want to strip it down to that bare bones, yeah, and there have been a lot of things. I wasn't on Twitter as much as it was during this race when Gragson pulled his move at Road America, but I was on it a good bit. I did not see, and obviously it's an Xfinity race, so there are not as many eyes on it. I did not see anywhere near as many people ripping Gragson as I thought people ripping Chase for a literal race-winning move that was not that bad of a block from, like, obviously the media proper didn't really do it because they rarely take sides in anything. But what is really the new media guys, which are a lot of the YouTubers, just completely ripping Chase. And it just, some of them I know just do it for, like Darian with Black Flags Matter. I don't think he really has opinion one way or another. It's kind of always been his thing. Is always just, he gets the reaction, which is fine.
Wants to get people going, just going for that.
Which, I mean, it's content, so I don't blame him at all.
Can't fault him there.
Just the level of animosity, like what's Chase supposed to do just because it's Corey LaJoie? Oh, go ahead, Corey. Let me just pull over and let you win. Like, any guy who sits there and thinks their driver should not have pulled that same exact move is soft. I'm sorry, period. It's soft. I think in this field, the only driver that maybe doesn't pull that is Martin Truex Jr., and I'm sorry, you do not want to be Martin Truex Jr. at plate tracks.
For I don't know how many now at this point, so very fair point.
Had a chance. Had one of his better chances in a while.
I gotta say, the fact I thought he was wrecked after Ross got him.
Ross, Joey Logano. Joey Logano literally in the air, all four wheels off the ground, running top 10 near the top 5 until he gets caught up in the incident with Christopher Bell and Kyle Busch after that wreck. I have not seen a car leave the ground like that. And then there are plenty of times the car looks fine and it's just broke something underneath it.
Yeah.
And that, it was not the case.
No.
This was brought to my attention too by Jeremy, who is not surprising because it's a Bowman thing. I just want to bring it up because it does reiterate something I've argued. Supposedly, I didn't fact check any of this, but it just seems like it could be true. So whether it's not, I still think it reinforces my general idea because it can certainly happen. Apparently, NASCAR started the caution clock or the damage clock. Sorry, not the caution clock. Sorry to bring back bad memories for
Yes.
anybody. The DVP clock, when Bowman got on pit road, is being pushed by the truck. Not when he was in the pit box, but once he was on there. Bowman's pit crew did not start their clock till he got into the pit box, which I think you could see pretty easily. Not saying that Bowman would have been able. I don't know if Bowman's car was all that damaged. I mean, it had to have been some damage because they could have, even with that loss of time, just replaced the 4 tires and got him out there. So I don't know if 100% he would have been able to fix the car or not, but he didn't have a chance because there was maybe a minute, I don't know how long it took, less time on the actual clock than the clock they're tracking in the pit box. And it is 2022. I do not know why every single one of these pit boxes does not have a clock that NASCAR controls that is the timer for that pit crew. I do not get it.
I don't know why the clock's even going until, I mean, it's going before they get to the box.
I agree 100%. It absolutely shouldn't. But at the end of the day, there's a chance that if they know this, they do things a little different and Bowman's fine. And that's my point. There should be no question about, one, if you're on the damaged vehicle policy or not. You can argue whether or not you should be. That's a separate thing. But there should be no question at any moment whether NASCAR considers you to be on that clock or not. And there should be no question about how much time you have left on that clock. Both of those should be 100%. The team knows it immediately. It is not hard to put a clock on these boxes with some kind of indicator, lighter. I mean, even the time enough would be an indicator, honestly, that you're on the clock. Period. I just don't. The more NASCAR can do to leave things less ambiguous, the better. And this seems like a pretty easy thing. This obviously happened. It's a different situation, but happened similar with Bubba at in the 600. It's happened here, and there have been other times where there certainly seemed to be a confusion between the guys of how much time was left or if they were on the clock or not. There shouldn't be any confusion. This should be. I mean, like I said, you can argue that you shouldn't be. That's a separate thing, though. There should be not any confusion as to, in that moment, how much time NASCAR says you have left and whether or not you were on the clock, period. If you're going to be that bad at it, just get rid of it. Which I'm not even a fan of. I'm 100% okay with the rule itself.
Yeah, this
execution.
You gotta change something, I feel like there. I don't know what, but
I do think it should be. I don't know how long it takes to replace a toe link. It should be able to be done within the caution clock. So if you have to extend the caution clock time, I'm fine with that. But I will give credit. They've clearly strengthened the toe links. We still have issues. Not as many as we were at the beginning of the season. Something I said I was not worried about. Continue not worried about it. Sucks that Chase got taken out of the 600 from very meaningless contact. Especially because in that race, cars hit the wall harder and finished. I mean, I don't remember. Briscoe caught the wall for sure. And I think harder than Chase did, honestly, and still finished top 5 of that race. So I'm okay with changing it to, I mean, I think it should 100% be able to fix a toe link in it, since that's the most commonly broken part. But it should be no question. There's too much unknown around this, and it's annoying.
No, I would definitely agree with that. And I've never been a big fan of the clock. I have my reasonings behind that and why I think it should or shouldn't be a thing, or why it should be lengthened. But it is what it is. The rules here, and they got to do a better job of cleaning that up. But
before we get into some of our good finishers, anything else about the race you want to say?
No, I mean, I think the one thing I want to add, and this is just my take with how that ended, the people that are saying Chase Wall, Corey LaJoie, you're insane. The TV
like I said,
cameras
was it
show
an aggressive move? Sure, but if it was not, and this shouldn't matter in the driver's seat, but I'm sorry, if that was Joey Logano on the outside, Chase would probably be getting called a hero right now.
Well, I mean, we didn't talk about it in the Xfinity race, but I think we were all pretty happy when Riley Herbst misjudged his block and put Ty Gibbs in the wall and ruined his race. Nobody's excited about that.
I didn't act like Riley Herbst was good because of it, but
no,
there were plenty of drivers. Sad. There were plenty of drivers where if it was them instead of Corey LaJoie, they would have not been anywhere near as mad. And in that instance, you're it's a big difference between like when you're racing a guy behind a normal track, you're behind a guy like Zane Smith at Mid Ohio, where he has to make a decision there. Does he bump Parker? Well, Parker's races him clean, so he's not going to do that. You don't have time at a plate track to make that decision when someone's going to your outside. Like, there's not time to sit here and go, well, this is Corey LaJoie. Would he do this? Would he maybe almost wall me? Oh, maybe. You don't have time for that.
Well, even in that situation, how are they going to know that Corey LaJoie's never at the front?
Yeah, true. But I mean, that's my point. It doesn't matter who's out there. Chase makes the same move. Yeah. And people get so mad because, it's a Spire car. He walled a Spire car. Well, he's going to, at that point, in that same move, going to likely end up walling anybody. Maybe not. I still think Corey could have just pulled to the inside. And would it have wrecked Chase? Maybe. And if it does, fair game.
My whole thing with that is that, I mean, you could argue maybe it was a late block. He got him in the bumper.
Couldn't have been that late. Right. If it was late, it was microseconds.
That's how I feel at the end of the day. It's like he got him in the bumper.
Not as bad as what Cindric did to Ryan Blaney this year.
No.
And no one called for Cindric's head.
No. Wow, it's the Daytona 500. That's what people are going to say. It was the Daytona 500. That's fair game. Yeah, sorry. I don't buy that.
And I'm not going to say they're unjust. People were already mad because we spent too much time in the broadcast at Dawsonville. They're not wrong. It was a bit much. But that's why they're upset. And they're going to be upset because there were people talking to, obviously they're sarcastic because they know this isn't going to happen. Like, I hope we get this much coverage at the next hometown guys track. Well, I promise you, if you go to Joey Logano's hometown, and where is he from, Hartford, or is he just from some other city in Connecticut?
Middletown, I think.
Middletown, Connecticut. Yeah. You are not going to find anything similar to what you find in Dawsonville, Georgia. You will not, other than maybe where's Senior from?
Annapolis.
Maybe like back in the day, you could find similar things, not to the level still of Dawsonville, but similar things in Annapolis. But other than that, you're not going to find anything like that in any other driver's home track, exception maybe Daniel Suarez's home track. Or he doesn't have a home track, but maybe his hometown. Yeah. If there was ever a track nearby, because those fans are very, very dedicated.
They're passionate. I will give them that, and they travel.
Like they do travel. They travel great. Yep. There's nothing similar else in any of these other drivers' hometown. Like, obviously, like I'm sure you can find like their family celebrating or what have you. But like Dawsonville is a crazy place when it comes to being Chase's hometown. So it's not comparable.
No.
Do I think it was on the broadcast too much? Absolutely. It was too much, but it's not Chase's fault.
No, but
it is like, obviously, I mean, he's almost getting to the point to where you could begin to argue who had a better career just because he has a championship and Junior didn't. I obviously still think Junior's career was better with 2 Daytona 500s and how long it was. But
I gotta say this, since you brought that up, though. We were talking about that because there's somebody that we both know who really dislikes both of these drivers. And I was talking to him one night, and he said he would take Junior over Chase. And I was like, at this point in their career, I mean, if Chase went off a cliff and he ran into the same problems that Junior did, sure, maybe you can make that argument. Maybe. But like right now, I think Chase is a more well-rounded driver. He's won at more styles of tracks, and he has the championship.
Talent-wise,
so.
I do think Chase is better, but I'm just talking like career-wise. Mm-hmm. And it's just if Chase was not the most popular driver, people wouldn't hate him like they do. And the same thing was true for Junior. People hated Junior as much as what Kevin Harvick said was bad. I still don't necessarily disagree with any of it. I don't think it's the kind of thing you say in public, especially when it's like someone who, I mean, I don't know that Junior considered them friends before he made those comments, but he certainly didn't dislike Harvick. And I'm sure the thing is, I'm sure Junior doesn't even disagree with it himself. I'm sure that kind of thought has been in his mind before, but you don't need to bring it up. And people get mad because the most popular driver isn't always the best driver. And they get mad that this guy is popular. Well, of course, Junior was popular because of his dad, and Chase popular because of his dad. And that's what it is. They didn't choose this. I mean, they chose to be drivers, but they didn't choose to have these expectations just because of who their father is. And I still think there is with his age, a pretty good chance Chase ends up better than his dad.
I mean, I think Chase, as of right now, probably more well-rounded.
Not talent, career stats.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, that's a different conversation. But I mean, yeah, career stats obviously he's not there yet.
Chase is very good at braking and turning, and Bill wasn't so good at the brakes most of the time. It wasn't his forte. But
yeah, I mean, back to initially what I was saying there is that, in my opinion, Chase made the block. It wasn't that late, and is what it is. That's how the race ended, and that's how he won. And nice to see him get that hometown win, because I think he was talking about it too in the interview on the front stretch. Like, outside of like winning the Daytona 500, I think there's no other win he wanted in the sport other than win
I agree.
at Atlanta. So that's a big check mark, off there of the list of things he wants to accomplish. So just all around, perfect weekend for Chase. Started on the pole because of the rain, led the most laps, won both stages, won the race. So clean sweep of the weekend in the Cup Series for Chase. Let's jump over to some finishers here, some guys to take note of before we look at the points.
Yeah, we did mention it, but I mean, as much as he was kind of a wrecking ball, like Ross still did finish second with a car that had been involved in many wrecks. Like, it is like the kid has talent. He just needs to. He's not really a kid. He's a lot older. He's kind of like, how old is he?
Like 20s, 28.
It's like Brad Keselowski-esque.
29. Yeah, 29. He's gonna be 30 in December.
Yeah, Brad Keselowski-esque in terms of when Brad came onto the scene. Obviously, Ross has been racing the Cup Series for a while, just never in good cars before. Full time anyway, before last year. But still finished second. Has a lot of talent. Will be a championship contender. Never gonna, at this point, I don't know that I'm ever gonna say anyone will for sure win the championship just because of the format, but he will be a Final Four contender for quite a while. And he's gonna struggle to get there when he has a target on his back that he does. Austin Cindric brought it home third, up to 13th in the standings, and continues the uptick he's been on the last month and a half, 2 months. Very solid race, kind of performance he needs to put it through, and has, so even without the win, definitely exceeded my expectations for him this year.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since like Ford does not seem the strongest. Penske, I know it seems crazy since Blaney's in second, but has certainly seemed to lack like race winning speed, which I feel like they did a lot of last year too, to be honest. So for Cindric to still be up to 13th in the standings, very solid. He's put himself in a position where, at least if he keeps doing this, won't have to be worried if there are 17 winners, because he was kind of the guy I think a lot of people had circled as who would miss if we got to 17, but has built a little bit of a buffer. Eric Jones, second top 5 of the season, and also matched, and last year he had 0, and also already matched last year's top 10 mark. Certainly last couple months haven't gone the way he wanted, I'm sure, with some struggles and all these finishers that have put him in a must-win situation, but they're still performing well. It's still been a very good year for him and that team. Just because I don't think there's a better ride out there, I do hope he's back with them next year. Justin Haley brought it home 7th, his second top 10 of the year. Solid day. They're a weird team, but I mean, he's like 22nd in points, so kept it clean, brought it home top 10. And then two guys with their first top 10s of the year. Cole Custer, his first top 10 since Dover of last year, and first single-digit finish since his rookie year, brought it home 9th. Harrison Burton also first top 10 of his career. Like, congratulations to Harrison Burton. Cole Custer should still be ashamed of himself.
I'm still not convinced he got 9th. I'm still not, because he got in that wreck, and I'm just not sure.
Does leave Todd Gilliland and I guess Cody Ware as the only guys full-time that do not have top 10s yet. Is Cole Custer should be embarrassed that he was on that list as long as he was, and I mean, yeah, I've ripped into him enough, and again, maybe not even his fault. It's an anomaly, but that team, someone should be embarrassed. Okay, whether it's Tony, whether it's Cole, I don't know. Somebody should be embarrassed, though. Anyone else you want to highlight?
I mean, I think I gotta just mention Martin Truex Jr. for having a chance to win a plate race, even though it didn't end too well for him, especially after getting wrecked by Ross Chastain. Christopher Bell finishing 19th with part of Bubba Wallace's pit crew who again messed up. I would be a little bit worried for Christopher Bell right now in terms of making the playoffs.
Was the Jackman one of the ones that changed? I don't remember.
I don't remember, but
that one was definitely on the Jackman.
That was on the Jackman, but you still have parts of Bubba's because if Jackman wasn't one of the guys that came over from Bubba's team, then just damn, that's pretty hilarious. But
Bubba just had something wrong with the car all day. They just never really had good speed in it.
No, he ended up coming home 14th, but I'm sure he's probably upset.
Yeah, points don't do him any good right now.
No,
so
not at all. Obviously Corey LaJoie had a chance to win the race. Now has more laps led on the season than Alex Bowman and Kevin Harvick. Who would have thought that would be something we'd be saying at this point?
Does he have more than Almirola too?
Does he have more than Eric Almirola? He does. Almirola only has 6 laps led, so that's another driver that I'm a bit surprised that Corey LaJoie would have more laps led than. So just some good run by him. Obviously, probably wishes it ended a little bit differently, but still a very good day. Even though he didn't get the finish.
Finished top 5 at Atlanta last time out, almost won this time. Mm-hmm. He probably is happy with the reconfigure.
I would say so. Taking a look at the points, I do mention this with just the Christopher Bell issue. Kevin Harvick did take a little bit off of that.
He gained a whole 1 point.
1 point. That's even less than I thought. I thought he got 2.
It looked like he was going to get more, and then they changed the finishing order.
Mm-hmm.
So he's only 19 back now. Finished 12th, but didn't get any stage points. So that's obviously not great. Gained 1 point. Eric Almirola finished 8th with no stage points. Gained 5 points, but he's 42 back, and I'm not gonna say it's impossible for him to point his way in. But he needs to be significantly closer than this after we leave Loudon if he doesn't win.
Mm-hmm.
This is the track where he's going to have the most opportunity to make up points. He needs to have a very solid run if not win. Obviously, winning would be preferred for him, but I think you probably want to be around 20 back after this, because they've, similar to other guys, they've struggled for stage points this year. So he's going to likely lose points more often than gain them. And even days he does finish ahead of Christopher Bell and Harvick, he might not get more points than him because of stage point.
He's going to have a problem getting points on Christopher Bell at New Hampshire because, likewise,
it's a very good race, very good track for Bell. So.
Yeah, so it's going to be an uphill battle.
Be a race to watch. Only guy on the inside that's within a race is Christopher Bell. Finished 19th, got 6 stage points. Because of those 6 stage points, only lost a single point to Harvick. Before the pit crew change, I was feeling pretty confident Bell would be able to outpoint Harvick. Harvick's obviously been better, but Bell still had more speed. But I don't know, maybe the pit crew itself is just cursed and it has nothing to do with all the crew members are cursed, and now all you've done is spread the curse. We'll find out, but
I'm worried.
If I'm Bell, I would have raised hell.
I don't get why you do it.
Unless these were somehow guys from Bell's Xfinity crew that he really wanted, I would be raising hell. Unless Bell himself orchestrated this, which seems unlikely, I would be raising hell.
The only thing I could think of, and maybe this is a little bit of a tinfoil cap type thing to say, but Michael Jordan was at Nashville when that 23 team just epically exploded.
Listen, and if that's the reason, sure, it does not change. If I'm Christopher Bell, I'm raising hell.
Yes, I would agree with that.
I'm gonna, other than maybe Bell sponsors, I would think it's probably not the craziest take that everyone at JGR, everyone at 2311, everyone at Toyota would want Bubba performing better than Christopher Bell, because Bubba is a lot better for everybody involved. So it would not be surprising to me if they made this change to try to help Bubba. The problem is it certainly could hurt Bell, and Bell is the one fighting for a playoff spot.
Yeah, it's I'm with you. I'd be really, really upset if I was Christopher Bell. It'd be funny if Toyota did decide they wanted Bubba to do better over Bell just because they kicked Eric Jones to the curb for this kid, and now here we are a year and a half later, and you're already making decisions that are negatively affecting the 20 teams. So that's very puzzling. Toyota's in an interesting spot, so we'll see.
Also, I think we are going to have a guy in the top 10 in points miss this year because Harvick was initially in 10th, lost a couple points because of the reorder, so now he is in 11th, but only by a single point. Based on the way he's performing versus how Byron and Bowman have been performing, I think he'll outpoint them. And I don't think Kevin Harvick's winning, so I think we will have at least one guy top 10 in points miss, which would, I'm pretty sure, be the first time.
Yeah, I think the closest they came, I want to say in 2017, Boyer was 11th, and he missed. I might be wrong on that, but I think that was the closest.
I, for the record, do think a better system would be similar, kind of a mix between this and our initial like wild cards back in the chase, where top 10 get in, and then the rest are set by wins and then points if we don't have enough winners.
I would agree, but
we know it's not going to change. I in no way think it's going to change. Like, I literally think there's a 0% chance. NASCAR set up this system, very purposely made it to where second place could miss. This was clearly possible from the beginning. So all these people that think that, I'm not saying they won't, especially because there are different people in charge now. So it certainly is. But people that act like NASCAR will feel like they have to change the rules if Ryan Blaney miss are crazy.
I think there's a chance, but I'm with you. They're not going to have to change them.
I think there's a chance, but I only think there's a chance because the people in charge are not the people that put in these rules. Mm-hmm. Well, the people that put in these rules, otherwise, how easy would you literally continue the rules you already have and just basically expand the wild cards from 2 to 6?
Yeah.
Like, that's all they had to do. And instead, they very specifically in the rules made it, you get in first by being the regular series champion, then by wins. Any unfilled spots are then given to points. Like, it was very clear. So, could it change? Sure, but I think it would be because of other people. Yeah. Before we get into the bets, anything else on the race?
No, I got one thing I want to bring up, but we could do that after the bets because that has nothing to do with the race itself. So let's jump into the bets here. I know we didn't have your picks on air because you were traveling.
I did add them in. I got yours in. So starting off,
I think we finished 1-2 with our picks.
Starting off with the truck series.
All right, I'm jumping ahead. All right, let's do the truck.
I picked Trojan Hocevar, who I don't have the results anymore, but I believe finished third. Mm-hmm. You picked Zane Smith, finished second. Which, like, obviously, you're not always going to be able to win. If your guys finish top 3, you're pretty happy with it, especially because Parker Klickerman won. Our value guys, you picked Derek Krause. I wound up putting in Matt DiBenedetto. DiBenedetto was having a solid run before things went wrong for him. He was one of his better runs, honestly. And then things went wrong. Krause got that at the end. Both of us had Nemechek losing his head-to-head. I picked Hocevar. You picked... I just put Smith, but I'm pretty sure it was Zane Smith. Doesn't matter because Chandler Smith, I'm pretty sure, also beat John Hunter. So both of those wound up being right. In the Xfinity Series, you went with Riley Herbst. I went with Sam Mayer. Both of those were wrong. Probably, honestly, should have gone with the obvious pick. It felt pretty obvious. For the value picks, you had Herbst again because he was already a value level. I had Sheldon Creed. Creed was looking strong there at one point. Didn't end up finishing there. For the head-to-head there, you picked Austin Hill over AJ Allmendinger. That one to being right. I don't know if you talked about it, and I don't even know if it was up at the time, but DraftKings had a pretty interesting Sage Karam over Noah Gragson. Pretty good paying odds for Sage Karam, and obviously normally you would never touch that, but you give me someone on a plate track like plus 400, I think it was, to beat someone else. I'm going to take that guy almost every day of the week. Obviously, it didn't work out. I think they had an engine issue, but at the actual race itself, you picked Ross Chastain, who, finished second. But I did pick Chase Elliott, continuing off the momentum. So got that win there. I think I have to go back and look, and maybe I will before the next one. I think Chase might be the only winners I've picked right this year.
You've gotten them all 3 wins?
All 3 wins. I picked him at the 600 where he had a car that could have won and didn't. Picked him at Road America Oswell where he almost won, finished second. I will just go ahead and say not going to be picking him this weekend, but for the value guys, you picked Brad, who had an okay race, had issues too, but was up there near-ish, the top 10 and stuff. I picked Eric Jones, who finished, I don't even remember anymore, 4th, I think. Our group matchups, not good. Not good, Brandon, not good. I got the first one right. Picked Elliott. You picked Ross. So next one was Larson, Kyle Busch, Joey Logano, and Bubba Wallace. I believe Kyle Larson finished the highest of these guys.
Oh, team itself.
We both picked Bubba, who finished second in that matchup.
14.
Then we had Hamlick, Reddick, Suarez, and Bell. And Suarez, very invisible race, but I think brought it home 6.
Yep.
Won that matchup, obviously. And then Truex, Kurt Busch, Bowman, and Harvick. Somehow Truex was the highest finishing guy. I don't think anyone expected that at a plate track. I picked Harvick, which was close. I think Harvick literally might have finished. I don't remember where Truex finished, but I think Harvick might have finished one spot behind him.
Mm-hmm.
Kurt Busch had his issues. So.
Truex was 11th, and
Harvick was
12th. Yeah, so I mean, we were not good on those, but we missed on a couple of them by one spot. So,
well, you picked Kurt Busch there, so you.
Oh, did I? Oh, never mind. Yeah.
Well,
you know, Kurt was. I don't know. I know he got in that wreck. He ran into Corey LaJoy. I don't know where he was exactly when he did that. So maybe he was in front of Truex there.
Yeah, he could have been. I don't remember.
Sure. So, it is what it is. I always tell myself not to bet heavy on plate tracks. I was a little better this week. I still wish I was a little better than I was, though, because it was not a fun weekend when it came to that.
I literally I made a fantasy team for Mid Ohio, and that was it.
Yeah, that was probably smart. I cut back a little bit, but it still wasn't enough, apparently. One last thing before we sign off on here, and this is something I don't know if you were following about it when it came out over the weekend, but just some news on Kyle Busch's contract situation with Joe Gibbs Racing. Joe Gibbs Racing's president, Dave Alpern, might be butchering that last name, but he did have some statements on there, and I think the one thing that caught my eye was just the wording of everything. When you come out and you say you will have something decided in the very near future, that doesn't sound as confident as what we've heard previously. He also followed that up with another quote that was not in the article from the Charlotte Observer, which was, Ty Gibbs would be plan B, which is also something that goes against what Joe came out and said, a couple weeks ago, probably about a month or two ago at this point, saying Ty would be staying in the Xfinity series. Anything to read into this? Or...
Well, I mean, I think most of what you've said seems pretty spot on. I still do not think Kyle's leaving, but I will also say, up until recently, I was pretty adamant that I don't care what Joe Gibbs says. Absolutely, Ty Gibbs could be in the Cup Series next year. So it's very on brand for us that within a couple weeks of where I finally give in and say maybe Joe Gibbs means what he says, that they basically come out and say, no, he could definitely be in the series next year.
Yeah.
So
I'm not saying Kyle Busch is leaving, but if, there's some type of, percentage of him staying or leaving, it's swinging a little bit based on these reports to him leaving.
It's funny because I feel like Truex signing increased his chances, but as the longer we go on after Truex is signed that Kyle still isn't re-signed, the less confident I become that he is there next year.
I mean, I know I have him penciled into the 10 car if he does leave. You have Rick Allen. I don't know if he heard something on the broadcast, but kind of teasing like Amarola might have second thoughts. Like, I don't know what's going on there either.
I don't know where that came from. That he's not the first person I heard say it, though. I've read some comments on Twitter, on Reddit, that like he was more non-committal about retirement. Obviously, I think if Kyle's available, he just retires. I don't.
It's not up to him if Kyle Busch is available. It's just not.
And there's literally nowhere else Kyle could go. Like, quite literally, there are no. I mean, obviously, there are places he could go. There's nowhere else he would go. Just every other car that is available is just not even in the remotely same tier.
I know
The one,
personally, man.
the
Like, oh, go
one
on.
exception, and there's no way this happens, but if anyone could pull it off, it would be them. Is a third Trackhouse car.
That'd be nuts. That would be nuts.
That's the only other that I don't like. Obviously, there's 0% chance, short of Michael Jordan paying him literally tens of $1,000,000, that he goes to the 2311. Because he would 100% view it as a demotion, and to be quite frank, he should. And nowhere else has any openings or really feels like they're in a spot where they would expand. I don't think 2311 should, or sorry, well, I don't think they should either. But Trackhouse should. But if there's a chance you get Kyle, we've seen some crazy things the last couple of years, and if I Kyle, I certainly prefer Trackhouse over Stuart Haas.
With how they are right now, yes, I think a lot of it too really comes down to what's going to happen with KBM. Him going to Ford would shake up the Toyota pipeline a lot because they have a lot of talent, and they would lose a whole team in terms of where to put it.
Just like Ford doesn't seem to really care about their development program.
They should.
They should.
I agree.
They don't. So
I get the feeling they're ready to let Zane Smith walk, and
it would be weird if they suddenly were giving Kyle the money he needs to run the team. Like, it would be a huge get.
Biggest hold up.
It would be a huge get for Ford. Like, I think Ford should absolutely do it. I just don't think they are.
Mm-hmm.
They just seem to care so little about their development program. They certainly seem to be like, well, we'll just get whoever we get, whatever.
I mean,
and I think that's the wrong move, but
it's working so far. But I mean, like, you got to have somewhere for Zane Smith to go. Like, you just do at this point. I don't. I mean, obviously, if Kyle brings a truck team over, it's the lateral move at that point. It's not moving up, but like, you need space to put these guys, and they don't have rides for anybody. Like, at least I think we both agree somebody like Ryan Preece deserves a full-time ride. You get somebody like Kyle Busch, while Ryan Preece is not a prospect, at least you have a place to put him for next year. You might be able to get John Hunter Nemechek too if he doesn't go and take a higher-end Toyota ride somewhere. If he wants to stick with Kyle and get that move over to Ford, well, then you have him back, and maybe you can find a way to keep Zane Smith somehow. I don't know, but like, you need more rides in the lower series for these kids.
Like, I certainly think Ford is less interested. I don't know. The general feeling I have is that not that Ford would view getting, and I think this is clear with Toyota's comments as well, that getting Kyle Busch or KBM as a huge get. Toyota knows how much it would hurt to lose them. That's a huge hole in your development program. So,
I don't know what John Hunter's future is, but you lose KBM, you got to find places for Corey Heim and Chandler Smith. Like, those are two guys. Where are they going to end up next year? You gonna go and buy some crap team to house them? Are you going to try to buy people out of ThorSport? Which, I mean, maybe there could be some openings at ThorSport. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there, but it's interesting. It's a tough spot to be in if you're Toyota. If you lose your flagship truck team over something like this, I guess maybe you could expand Joe Gibbs' Xfinity team a little bit. Maybe you could expand Sam Hunt Racing, who they've looked a little bit better with people other than John Hunter in that car recently. So I don't know, but it's just something to keep an eye on. You know, I think the more and more we go into the year and nothing's been announced, it seems, while probably as of right now a small chance, it's going to get bigger and bigger that maybe Kyle's going to walk and go to another team for next year. But just something to keep an eye on as we come near the stretch run here coming into the playoffs. So that'll do it for tonight's episode of the Bernie Breakdown. Thanks for listening, guys, and we will be back later in the week with a preview for New Hampshire. Until then, guys, we will catch you around, and we'll see you next time on the Bernie Breakdown. Brandon Monroe here. Thanks for listening to the Bernie Breakdown. Remember to keep listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform. And remember to follow us at Bernie Breakdown on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and all of our other social media platforms.